Well, hello to everybody here. It's Teresa Sanderson again with another episode of Dare to Do Nursing Differently. And I am super excited. We have a wonderful guest with us today, my dear friend Maureen Metzger. Maureen, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, so happy to have you. For those of you who do not know Maureen yet, I just want to share with you, she's a nurse and also a nursing leader. She is a nurse educator, has worked in academia for a significant part of her career and loves also doing research around topics related to nurses or nursing. So, as of now, she has transitioned from her work in academia to serving nurses in a coaching capacity. And so I'm just really excited that she's also decided to serve as one of our Nurses Feed Their Young experts on our team to support nurses. So that's a little bit about Maureen. Again, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Teresa. I really appreciate you. I appreciate all the work that you're doing, and I'm really excited to be a part of this, movement of just supporting and nurturing nurses wherever they find themselves working and at whatever stage in their careers. We're here for all of it, aren't we?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Maureen, I know that my audience is always very interested in just kind of hearing the story of, how did you get started in nursing? So, share with us a little bit about that. What drew you to the career? What kind of background do you have? What kind of settings did you work in, and that kind of thing?
Okay, that sounds great. Um, I feel like I'm one of those lucky ones, right? From a really early age, it was clear to me that my purpose in life was to serve by caring for other people. And
Hmm.
so, I'd like to say that really I feel like nursing found me. And so I just was blessed in that way. And so for the first 20 plus years of my career, I was in direct patient care. And so the patients I took care of mostly had cancer or HIV, and then later transitioned to more to palliative care, so included heart failure, end stage renal disease, and so forth. And I was very lucky to work alongside some amazing colleagues. So working in teams and just really loved it. For me, walking alongside people during a really challenging time in their life just felt like a blessing and deeply, deeply meaningful to me. And then around, in the early 2000s, I had moved with my family, and I was very interested in what graduate school might look like for me and what other opportunities there might be for me. And so what I thought was an informational meeting with someone who the PhD program director at the University of Rochester. And I
Hmm.
left there. My husband, how was the meeting? And I said, I, I think I'm applying for their MS to PhD program. I'm pretty sure I just got talked into that. And so it was one of those moments where I thought this could cost $100,000, which I don't have, but I'm going to just put my application in, and then we'll see what the universe has to say about that. And so I ended up getting fully funded, which was amazing. And
Absolutely.
so, talk about kind of dropping out of the sky. So I took that as a sign to me, this is what I'm meant to do. And
Hmm.
from the get-go, I was paired up with a nurse scientist. And I'd never really known very many nurse scientists. And so she was doing this ethnographic study looking at how palliative care services got started in big acute medical centers because palliative care kind of had its roots in hospice and home care and community.
Yes.
And so I was just bitten by the research bug and worked, again, in the amazing teams with clinicians and researchers from all different backgrounds. And just loved it. And I just kept going. And she helped me. She was a wonderful mentor, helped me to get funding through the National Institutes of Nursing Research. And then I just kept going in my postdoc. And so my research was really, I took my clinical practice. So my research was very much grounded in clinical practice. So I wanted to look at patient and family members' experiences in the
Hmm.
advanced stages of illness and ways that we could support them by the way we communicated with them and how we helped them make decisions in a way that they could meaningfully participate in their own care and in how we
Hmm.
keep care patient centered. And
Yeah.
so just really loved that. And so for me, it made a lot of sense, patient centered in the clinical,
Mm-hmm.
population centered, in the research. And so after postdoc, and I did a lot of what we call psychoeducational intervention. So for me, it
Mm-hmm.
was qualitative work, but it was also educational. And so these
Mm-hmm.
talking interventions, if you will. So very much in line with what nurses are really good at doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then after postdoc, I was looking for a faculty position, a research faculty position. And I
Mm-hmm.
deliberately chose a place where they were very well integrated. So the nurse scientists were very well integrated with the educators and the clinicians
Oh,
and,
nice.
and the community. And so I really liked that because I thought, oh, I like the lack of silos. And so
Yeah.
everybody teaches there. And so I will say my first course, they handed me a list of course objectives and said, hey, we're changing our curriculum. Here's some course objectives. So we'll see in the fall. And I did have that moment of panic, like, oh my gosh. But again, it was a visionary leadership. They were
Mm-hmm.
trying to create a more inclusive, healthy work environment,
Nice.
foster collaboration, true collaborations with our clinical partners, and
Mm-hmm.
compassionate care was at the heart of it, and just a different way of creating a learning environment where students could really thrive. And so
Nice.
those of us that were hired, the dean brought on quite a few of us. We were on board with this mission, and it was just electrifying. And so once I got over my panic, I thought, you know what? I've got a lot of clinical experience. I love nurses, and I've got these wonderful clinical instructors that I'm going to be, working alongside. And
Mm-hmm.
so we just sat down at that first meeting, and I said, hey, I don't know what I'm doing in terms of teaching, but I know what nurses need and I know what it takes to practice. And I went around the room and I said, how long have everybody been a nurse? And so I'd been,
Mm-hmm.
35 years or 30 years at the time. And,
Yeah.
and there was like 170 years of nursing experience in this room. And I thought,
Yeah.
you know what? We got this.
Yeah.
The students, and it's going to be okay.
Mhm.
And it was electrifying. There's no other word for
Wow.
it. It felt like magic. We were able to create this learner-centered environment. And again, I thought, well, patient-centered in the clinical setting, population-centered in research, learner-centered in the classroom. Let the classroom be a proxy
Mm-hmm.
for what the clinical environment will be. Let me treat my students the way I want them to treat their patients, and
Oh my.
let them
Wow.
be socialized with love
Mm-hmm.
into this profession. And
Mm-hmm.
it really felt like magic. And I knew I was in alignment that, okay, this is all part of what I'm meant to be doing in nursing. And the
Wow.
leadership was visionary. And so I went to the dean and I said, listen, we're doing all these dynamic things in the classroom. We are preparing our nurses for what's out there, in
Mm-hmm.
a loving way. We're launching them with love. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we should be collecting data. I'm a
Yeah.
scientist. Let's do some research. Let's collect some data. So I did some studies in what is called
Mm-hmm.
inclusive pedagogy. So
Mm-hmm.
looking at if you create this type of incredible belongingness
Mm-hmm.
the classroom environment, what is the impact on student academic outcomes and clinical outcomes? And it was amazing. The
Wow.
rising tide lifts all boats.
Mm-hmm.
So I also wanted to see, do students from historically underrepresented groups experience the learning milieu differently from their peers? And what we found was everybody thrives in a truly inclusive learning space.
Mm.
But students from underrepresented minority groups thrived, I don't want to say even more because everyone thrived, but they got a bigger bang for the buck because they were
Mm.
starting out, sort of with a lower sense of belongingness, right? Many
Yeah.
had experienced discrimination, either
Mm-hmm.
subtle or overt.
Wow.
But it was amazing what happened. And they were
Incredible.
ready to transition into practice. They did better in the academic and the clinical settings. And so this just really was incredible. And so we knew we were onto something here. And unfortunately, COVID came, and then it was kind of all hands on deck, just trying to
Hmm.
keep afloat, right?
Sure.
And then after COVID, we did have a new leadership, and they just this was no longer the vision.
Yeah.
So I refer to it as I no longer sat at the cool kids' lunch table, and I ended up getting fired. And so I had that moment of, oh my heavens, of almost 40 years in nursing. I
Hmm.
I don't know what else to do. I don't know how
Hmm.
to be in the world if I don't have this. And so I really had to step back and think, okay, what have what have I taken from my nursing experience? And what could I do with this to still stay true to my mission and purpose to elevate the profession and to prepare our nurses and to conduct science that helps patient care? And
Hmm.
I found coaching. And
Oh.
in many ways, it was like coming home because the
Hmm.
type of coaching that I do, just like the relationship between the nurse and patient, is the metaphorical vessel in which healing takes place. And the
Yes.
relationship between learner and teacher is a metaphorical vessel in which the learning takes place. Well, the coaching relationship, the relationship between coach and client, becomes a metaphorical vessel in which transformation takes place. So,
Hmm.
presence, compassion, a growth
Hmm.
mindset, a deep and abiding respect for human beings. Doesn't that sound like nursing? That's
Yep.
part of coaching too, where you walk alongside someone and you help them get in touch with what is already inside themselves,
Hmm.
and you bring it to
Wow.
the forefront, and you help them move toward healing. And so I thought, yep, this is it. This is a way
Wow.
for me to, you know, continue to do the work that I love doing, but in
Hmm.
a different way. And so that kind of led me into the entrepreneurial space. And when I tell the listeners out there, if you think, oh Lord, no, me, business, entrepreneur, no, no, no. If you had told me even 5 years ago that I'd be doing this, I would have said, I don't think so. So, you never know.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
here I am. I've learned so much. Yes, sometimes it's like drinking from a fire hose, but every day I'm learning something new. I get out of bed excited, and I've met people like you and other people in the
Mhm.
LinkedIn space that are,
Yep.
we're all out here and we're banding
Hmm.
together because we know that healthcare is in crisis. We
Yeah.
know that our frontline workers, our nurses are struggling, many of them. And we're
Hmm.
here to say, we see you, we hear you, we love you, and we're going to help you make change.
Yep.
We're going to embrace you, and we're going to be
Hmm.
present with you as we all work together to change the system. Because
Yep.
once and you've had this experience too, when you've had the experience of know you're making a difference,
Hmm.
work is being fulfilled, your vision is being realized, you can't unknow that.
Right.
You can't go back. There's no going back. And
Hmm.
so, that's really what I'm all about right now is just working with other like-minded people to offer a counter narrative.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I love so much in your story, just the richness of your career overall. The investment you made of time and energy into doing the research to really validate, is this mode of teaching making a difference, right? And to be able to validate through studies that yes, it did make quite a difference and in multiple ways. And then, being able to just, transition the care that you had for the students, the care and the love that you had for the students into now what you're doing as a coach, I think is amazing. I do not want to gloss over the idea that such a seasoned nurse and valuable nurse as yourself was terminated. I think we need to, I think today we need to be staring things like that in the face and going, what happened? What happened? We know that process was working. We
Yes.
know, we know the students were coming out better prepared, to go into the workforce. Yet we're going to have a change in leadership and we're going to go backwards. Is that? Is that what we're looking to do here? I just think it's a shame, but I hear from many nurses, seasoned nurses, nursing leaders, nurses in academia like yourself who are experiencing similar things
Mhm.
for budgetary reasons, perhaps, that maybe we don't want to pay a seasoned veteran nurse what their value is, and instead we can hire someone with less experience at a lower cost. When in reality, what we're looking at is these salaries and wages are our investment into the future of
Mhm.
nursing.
Yes,
So isn't it true? You get what you pay for, right? It's so we have to do what's necessary to create sustainability for nurses, and sustainability comes from wisdom, truth, proven practices, right? That's what sustainability comes from. It's rooted and steeped in all of those things. It's not it's not something that we can patch together with things that might work.
absolutely. I agree 100%. And, I believe I was the only one who was outright fired. However, you know, there were probably about a dozen of us over the course of a couple of years, and almost all of us were in the what we would call the season category.
Uh-huh.
In that case, the reason they gave was a shortened funding runway, which is code for being too old. And then
Yeah.
secondly, if you can believe this, over engagement with students and my work in inclusive pedagogy was seen as inappropriate. And so,
Hmm.
you know, that's a shame. And I like to think that and it wasn't the majority, of course. I worked with so many wonderful people, so it certainly wasn't the
Mhm.
majority. And I even think the leaders that were responsible for the decision, I don't think their intention was to hurt. I don't think anyone gets up and says, "Hey, I think I like to hurt some people today and ruin their
Mhm.
careers and break their hearts."
Sure.
Sometimes they get caught, some of our leaders are caught between this tension of looking at metrics that do
Oh
not
gosh.
accurately reflect what our profession is about. And so I think for me, it's a profound sense of disconnect because it's all about relationships, right? And the strength of the relationship depends on the quality of the connectedness. And once you're in a state of profound disconnect, the relationship falls apart. And when the relationship falls apart, the vessel in which the healing,
Mhm.
transformation, growth, or learning takes place has now been broken. And
Mhm.
so that's a problem. And so I think the solution to that problem is we've got to get back in connection with who we are as a profession, as nurses. What are our values? And
Mhm.
our leaders need to get back in touch with what those values are. You cannot speak to a nurse about saving money and about the bottom line metric when they don't have the resources they need to take care of patients,
Right.
right? Because
Right.
it's a
Mhm.
mismatch. That's
Yeah.
not the mission. That's not the value. That's not what is important to that nurse.
Right.
I have never met a nurse who said, you know what, I'm thinking about leaving nursing because I can't stand people. I hate patients. I don't like
Yeah.
caring for them. They don't deserve to be cared for, and I'm out of here. Never once have I heard that.
Mhm.
And I'm sure you haven't either. What we do
Yeah.
here is I know how to be a good nurse. I know what I need,
Mhm.
and I'm not getting it.
Yeah.
So I have a choice to either dig deep and make the changes I can make in my area at work and
Mhm.
hope that that will do it, or I can leave and go someplace else where my gifts and strengths will be supported,
Yep.
or I can stay. And I call those people the walking wounded. So, in order for them to stay in a highly dysfunctional, toxic environment, they
Mhm.
need to really put up a force field to
Yeah.
protect themselves. And that's
Mhm.
when you have that compassion fatigue, that
Yep.
disconnect, that burnout, because that is
Mhm.
not sustainable. And
Mhm.
so, I think that we've got to get back into connection. And leaders
Mhm.
they have a responsibility.
Absolutely.
Whether you're a leader in the classroom, or you're a leader on your unit, a leader of a large organization,
Mhm.
doesn't matter.
Yep.
Everyone has their role to play, and it starts with relationship,
Yes, it does.
right? Yeah.
Yes, it does. Absolutely. Absolutely. So you've transitioned now, you're working in the coaching arena. You know, a lot of nurses, you and I talked about this, think about starting a business. They think about hanging out their own shingle. They want more, but they don't really know, how do I take the first step? How could I possibly succeed? I don't know anything but nursing, right? What one piece of advice would you give an aspiring nurse entrepreneur who's just kind of stuck in that decision?
I would say, and certainly for me, the first step is looking inward. And so I actually wrote down, and I recommend everyone do this, my vision statement. And so
Hmm.
the first I had to think about was, okay, what are my values? What as a human being, what are my values? What do I value? And I thought, okay, what are my strengths?
Hmm.
And then what's my experience? What have I done that has, I like to say, set me on fire? What have I done that has really lit me up? When have I been experiencing meaning and joy? And so I
Hmm.
could think of, I could think about those things. And for me, it was all about relationships, um,
Yeah.
in which, healing and growth or education were taking place. I value compassion, I
Hmm.
value people. I want to be of service. And so I was clear on all these things. And then I thought, okay, so what is my vision for myself? My big vision, my big dream.
Hmm.
It was, I want to be a source of hope and healing in the world. And so then
Hmm.
my vision statement became, how can I use my experience, my strengths, my values to feed this big vision? And
Hmm.
so once I start there, then I know I'm not a blank slate, and there's no nurse out there. If you've been working as a nurse, you
Hmm.
your values, your strengths, your experience, the places that you know that you can shine, you've got that. So you write that down, and then you really think about what other opportunities are there out there for me? And then you
Hmm.
get into conversation because I guarantee you, whatever you're thinking, whether it's coaching, consulting,
Hmm.
educational support, whatever it may be, somebody else has gone before you and blazed a trail. And
Yep.
it's been my experience in those early days. I cannot think of one time where I reached out and said, hey, I'd love to hear more about what you're doing. Here's who I am. And I admire and I'm inspired by you. Could we have a connection call?
Hmm. Hmm.
And, that's where it started for me.
Yep.
I had not, it was that what I call a 2-for-1 special. Not only did I meet these amazing people, and you're one of them, but I also could see possibility for myself. And sometimes that's what you need when you
Hmm.
look into the future and it looks a little bit fuzzy. Sometimes if you just have a conversation with someone and they look at you and they say, I see it. You've got
Hmm.
a vision. It's a big vision and you can do it.
Yep.
Here's an action step. Here's a
Hmm.
resource. Here's somebody you might want to talk to. Like just ask. Just put yourself out there, share your dream and just get in conversation with people. And that's what it
Hmm.
took for me. And I at every step along the way, I found someone who I could be in conversation with that
Yeah.
inspired me and then also gave me practical resources. And as soon as you move a little bit along that path, I always take
Hmm.
a look behind me and say, hey, I've been doing this for, a couple of years now. So
Hmm.
maybe there's someone who's just starting out. Maybe there's
Yep.
a nurse who's just thinking about it. I
Hmm.
can talk to that person.
Yep.
And so
Love
it's
that.
that chain, one hand out, one hand reaching behind. That way we all get pulled along. We all get to move forward.
Mm.
And so
I love
that's what
that.
I would say is put yourself out there, get in conversation because there's lots of us out here and we want to talk to
Ah,
you. We want to talk to you.
absolutely. Yep. Yep. And I think that's one of the things that's so different in the entrepreneurial space. I mean, there's definitely along the whole mindset continuum, we can either have a scarcity mindset or an abundance and growth
Yes.
mindset. Um, but in the world of nurse entrepreneurship, the beautiful thing is, of course, you get to pick and choose who you hang out with.
Yes.
But then also, like-minded people come together, and the
Yes.
sharing of information and knowledge and resources is just incredible. It's just incredible in the
Absolutely.
space. It's as if nurses are finally have the permission on our own to do the things the way we want to do them. And
We cannot sit back and wait to be rescued. I mean, that's
yeah.
and actually my brother told me that when I was kind of going, through that and figuring out what I was going to do. He said, "You know what, Maureen? You can't sit back and wait to be rescued
Hmm.
because
Yep.
you've got it inside yourself." And I thought,
Mm.
you know what? He's right.
Yep.
And I
Very
think that's the beauty
wise.
of our profession, right?
Hmm.
We can't, as a profession, sit back and hope that somebody is going to fix the system and
Yep.
rescue us. We know what we need. We know what
Yes.
the answers are. We need to
Hmm.
band together and
Yep.
make it happen because
Yep.
nobody's going to do it for us. And
Right.
so, but there are people out here like you and I and many others
Hmm.
that are, we are here. We're here for it all, and we're excited to see our
Yeah.
profession, moving forward.
Definitely, definitely. Oh my gosh. So much wisdom in this discussion today. And I'm so excited to have had you here on the show, and as well, again, that you're serving as an expert in our Thriving Nurse Network community as part of the Nurses Feed Their Young movement. So thank you for all of that, and, just all the work you've done in nursing up to now. I think many times we don't hear it enough. But thank you, Maureen, for all that you've given and contributed to our profession. You've had such an impact already, and you're still making an impact in our profession. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Teresa, as
Yeah.
well. I think, as you know, as a nurse, I feel that gratitude and I so appreciate it, but I'm also deeply grateful because I feel like being able to do the work that I've done, it's not just made me a better nurse, it's made me a better human. I'm a really
Mhm.
happy person. I live a very blessed and joyful life, in large part, because of my nursing career. So it's been an investment that the ROI has greatly exceeded the original investment. I will say
I
that.
love that. I love that. Before we finish up today, I would love to give you the next few minutes to talk with our audience and just share with them how can they connect with you beyond this interview. And if there's any resource or anything that you would like to share with them, please feel free to mention it. How can they grab it? How can they connect with you? The floor is yours.
Oh, thank you, Teresa. Well, I
Sure.
will say my coaching practice is Metzger Coaching, and I do have a website, metzgercoaching.com, but I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. I post a lot of content there, so people that's kind of a low stakes way of getting to know me. You can look at my content on LinkedIn and see if, the things that I write and say kind of are in sync with what you think and what you feel. I also I've created a few LinkedIn magnets, but I've released one of them, which are basically like a free gift. I've got a resource that people can, if you just reach out to me and message me on LinkedIn, I'm happy to send it to you. I also am happy to talk about coaching. The type of coaching I do is it's called core energy coaching, but essentially it's coaching from the inside out. And so I work with people to, try to help them figure out how to get to where they want to be. If they feel stuck, we can help them. I can help them address blocks that are kind of keeping them stuck. I can help them develop some strategies for themselves to kind of get them where they want to be and support them, along their journey. And I love to have conversations with people. So, probably reaching out via LinkedIn is the easiest way for someone to get in touch with me, or they can join Nifty and participate in some of the offerings there because you find me there as well. So yeah, um,
Love that. Love that.
be well.
And for those of you who are watching and listening today, I do want to encourage you to connect with Maureen Metzger on LinkedIn. She is just transparent as she is here today with us. And I just love visiting with her and connecting with her. She's a wealth of knowledge and information. And so just know that she's truly genuine in saying, connect with me. I'm open to talking with you. That's the kind of gal that she is. So, Maureen, again, thank you so much for sharing time
Thank
with me
you, Teresa.
today. Yeah, this has been such a joy. And to everybody who has been listening in or watching today, thank you so much for joining us. This concludes this episode of Dare to Do Nursing Differently, and we will see you next time. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.